Greetings, everyone. I'm Samuel, and this is a podcast called 51st Parallel. I'm recording this episode in a studio at Radio Luz, LUZ, on campus of Wrocław University of Science and Technology. Since the Christmas break is almost upon us, me and my guests will discuss some of the stuff connected to this particular period of the year. As always, I hope you'll like it, so relax, kick back, and let's begin. Hello, that's a new episode of the 51st Parallel podcast, and today I have another guest here with me, and it is Kinga. Hi, Kinga.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Well, actually, I'm really good. How about you?
I guess me too, because again, as I said, Christmas is almost here, so that was the last day of our classes, and I'm really happy.
Well, I really can't wait as well.
You see, on this podcast, I ask my guests to introduce themselves and just to answer some of my questions, so I hope you don't mind if I ask you some.
Well, it depends on the questions. I hope I don't mind as well.
Let me ask you the first question, and my first question is, what is your department here at the university?
Well, I study at W1, which is the Faculty of Architecture, and I study, who would expect, architecture.
Architecture, wow.
Yeah.
Do you like it?
Well, I actually really do. It quite depends on the subjects and the, people who are leading them, but I so enjoy some of the classes. For example, painting, sculpting, drawing, it is just perfect for me, as well as maths. I just love those things.
That's an interesting combination. I mean, yeah, some subjects that are, at least in my opinion, connected to arts and also math, right?
Well, that's why I chose this faculty, because I think that it connects most of my interests, and it's really hard to connect some of them.
Okay, so what would be your advice for some people who want to apply for this field of studies?
Well, first of all, everyone knows it, but to get here, you need to actually pass the drawing exam. So I would say learn to draw. I mean, it's not the
that's the basics. I mean, if you don't draw, then you have nothing to do here.
Yeah, I think that
at least on this department. So
I'd say that all people who are choosing this are really used to drawing already, but those are different kinds of drawing.
So what is so different?
There are different rules,
as you mentioned, perspective. Yeah, you told me a little bit about this earlier, so...
Yes, because I never used to use perspective in my drawings before, but then it proved that there are some rules that you need to know and apply on your exam if you want to pass it. For example, there's one point where every line which is parallel is going, and you need to really stick to it. Also, I'd say that it is quite important to focus on maths and physics, because you are going to need them in here, and it would be way easier for you if you did it before. And also just try to, get to know the subject before a little bit. For example, I actually met with few of the architects and asked them what it looks like. So, because it requires a lot of preparation, and you don't want to go into something that would cost you this much of effort if you're not sure whether you'll want to do it or not, because it would take 4 years of your life, just the first
first degree. Yeah. Your degree. I wish I met some people from my area, although it is probably a little bit problematic here, but still.
What do you study?
Oh, I study aerospace engineering, so probably it would be a little bit hard to find someone here.
Possibly still, somebody who is studying it might help,
exactly.
Because you just get the perspective on the years that are going to come in this short period of time.
Yeah. Some other students who are older than I am, they can tell me for which things I should prepare myself, and what to learn. That's true. Do you like this university in general?
Well, I do, but I wanted to ask you, do you like your field of study?
Yes, I do. I mean, of course, there are several reasons why I do. people are good in my group. So yeah, I mean, I have some contacts there. There are some guys I know who are my friends. So yeah, I mean, that's probably that's not the most important factor, but still, that is good to have some people around you who you share some common views, let's say, or who are also interested in the same thing that you're interested in. Of course, probably I should make a remark here that I expected it to be a little bit different, but still, I do not regret, so I'm pretty happy with my choice.
What did you expect it to be?
Well, I expected it to be a little bit more connected to robotics, because the thing is that actually I used to do robotics. My experience is 9 years in this field, so actually I participated in some competitions. Some of them were successful, and our team occasionally would, win some competitions. Also, we won a world competition. That was very interesting, and I just like this field. But also, I have to add that I just like engineering in general.
Well done. I'm pretty proud of you, I have to say.
Thank you. By the way, speaking of just in general our university and Wrocław is also a beautiful city. I mean, that's my second year. I'm living here currently because again I'm studying here. So for me, there were some differences, I would say. I don't remember whether you're from Wrocław or not.
Well, I'm actually not.
Okay, so was it different for you when you came here, and is it different now?
I've visited Wrocław before, and I even lived there for a week. It was connected to some event, and well, it's not that different to me because I still live with my brother, and it is actually great because it's quite more like home, and because he studies here as well.
Oh, okay. So what is his department? If it is not a secret, of course.
Well, it's not. He's studying touristics. It's quite...
Oh, okay. So it is not on our university. Okay. Does he like it?
Well, I think he does.
Okay, that's good. I mean, as long as everyone is happy, that's good, I guess. For me, it was a little bit different in this respect that the weather is different, certainly. I mean, the climate is a little bit different. I mean, Wrocław is to the south, so no surprise that here the winters are a little bit warmer. This winter is certainly different from what we have in Belarus.
And it's really sad for me too, because for example, my grandmother lives in really eastern part of Poland, so we visit her every winter, and there are tons of snow.
Yeah.
And you come here and you're like, oh,
yeah, that's
where
true.
is the snow?
I mean, the general rule is that the farther you are away from the Atlantic, the more continental the climate is. So.
Well, yes, that is actually true, because waters have this tendency to stick to the temperature that they had for a longer time than the earth does. If you are too close to the water, then the ground is less likely to get cold quickly if it was warm before, because the water would still remain warm and it will just, heat it. And if you are further from it, then the ground would just quicker change the temperature.
Wow, okay. Look at you. You know all these facts. Wow. Someone studied geography really hard. Good.
For 2 years.
Yeah, by the way, do you think today it was very sad to watch how all the snow just melted in those 3 days? So, do you think this winter will still bring some more snow to Wrocław?
Well, I do hope that, because one of the reasons I'm actually studying there is because our faculty looks like Hogwarts, but everybody knows that, and we have this lake in front of our department, and it was my dream to go there ice skating, and I actually did this Monday. It was the last day for me to do it, because when we came there on Tuesday, then the ice was not steady enough to hold you on top of it.
I'm happy this dream came true. And again, since we're talking about this period, and of course Christmas is going to come soon, so let's just discuss how Christmas looks around the world. because of course there are some differences. First of all, what Christmas is? Do you know what Christmas is?
Do you mean Jesus being born?
Jesus
or
being born.
do you mean that it came from, like, this actually event that was created for the Saturn god? Like, Romans have already had the ceremony, and Christians wanted them to change their religion, but they didn't want to get rid of the like event, so they just changed it, and it was like, oh, Jesus was born, though he wasn't actually born then, but
they wanted.
worked.
I've heard this thing that the Catholic Church tried to make it more acceptable for the locals. They tried to make some events when actually some pagan people had some celebrations.
Funny that you mentioned that, because there was a really good story about Saint Nicholas Helper among the German countries, because they had this person.
This beast, I would say, not a person. I don't know. Okay, this thing is a little bit scary.
His name was Krampus, and he had like those horns and claws, and he was really furry, and he used to like scare children.
I mean, I imagine this thing just, scared the living light out of these German children, and also some other children living near Alps. That's, again, another example of this tradition that was sort of brought
Yes,
from,
because we didn't actually say it before, but it is because they actually decided that he was going to be St. Nicholas Helper from now on, and he would, like, when St. Nicholas would reward the good behaving children with some treats, then the Krampus would
punish the children who misbehaved. Yeah, exactly. That's the funny part, because they didn't want to, to attain to St. Nicholas's name with that, because who would expect that Saint Nicholas would punish children, right? I mean, he's a good guy, so we need a bad guy following him and punishing children. But I mean, like, if you want, just check some photos on the internet where they have these black and white pictures of German kids and how they enjoy standing next to Krampus. So yeah, it's just hilarious to watch these children just freaking out. By the way, you're just laughing silently. I imagine when I'm going to,
Yeah, it's going to be just you laughing,
Yeah.
and it will be like pretty awkward.
a little bit.
Sorry for that.
No,
I
no,
can
that's
just,
okay.
like, you can just take one of my laughs and just put it there every time.
Yeah, sure.
And
Probably that's what I'm going to do.
yeah, they
Okay,
are
just
not going
just
to
in
know.
case when Kinga is laughing, I'll say she's laughing, something like that, because
You can just, like, do the pause, and then like, she was laughing as well. It wasn't only me, and then go on with the podcast.
just a side note, she was laughing as well.
It wasn't just me.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not pathetic.
Anyway, let's move to some other parts of the world. And I was always interested in how they celebrate Christmas in, for example, in the southern hemisphere, because again, when we have winter here, actually in their perspective, it is the season which is warmer than usual. For example, in Australia, it is quite warm there in this period, and of course they don't have snow during Christmas, do they?
Well, they don't, and it is actually crazy because they use sand instead sometimes, and they would just do snowmans out of sand, and that would be sandmans, I'd say, and they would dress as Santa Claus and go surfing. I saw those things, and
Just crazy.
it's actually great how we can all unite in the celebration, and everyone is having great time on their own in their home. And it is great that you know that you are having perfect time with your family and your close ones, and everyone is having this feeling as well, and you can just feel connected
just
to them.
the period when everyone is at least it seems like everyone is happy, right? And speaking of unification, you said something like everyone can unite during this time. Probably we can also mention this weird, in some sense, event that happened in 1914 Christmas truce. The story goes that a few months after the World War I started, there were two opposing sides, and they were again fighting against each other, but it was Christmas, so the British, I believe, I believe these were the British. They started to sing some Christmas songs, and the Germans were on the other side, but they started to sing some songs too. And after that, like, it was in the evening, I would say, and during the night. But the next morning, they just got out of these trenches and started to, play football and exchange probably some small presents or something like that. It was almost like a miracle. And actually, many people believe after that it was just sort of a legend. But recently, I believe they had an interview with one of the soldiers fighting there, and he told that no, that's a real story. Just interesting, right?
Well, yes, I've actually heard also that after that happened, they didn't really want to fight against each other anymore because they get to know the people on the other side and they really like them. So they have to move those people because they just wouldn't fight there.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense, definitely, because when you know that on the other side there are also humans, and humans, it is sort of difficult to fight against these people, let alone kill them. Interesting story that just shows that humans have some commonalities, and despite the nationality, despite the country. And also we can mention some events that happened close to, New Year celebration. Among the events that were pretty big during that time is definitely Y2K bug. What do you think? Do you know anything about that? Because if you don't, I can explain.
Could you?
Yeah, sure. So the problem was that people had their computers, and most of the software, probably I should specify that it was, this problem appeared, and it seemed to affect all computers on January 1st, the year 2000. Now let's get to the problem itself. Most of the computers were run on some software that was developed in 1960s. So people back then thought that, okay, probably someone will, eventually make something better and change the software. And at the time, they didn't have that much memory as we have now in our computers, phones, some other devices. So they were trying to be economical about the amount of memory they spent on different things in their computers. So they decided to store date as in this format, where you have date, month, and later you have year, but year only two last digits. Like let's say 1965 would be just 65. Probably you can imagine what happens after 1999. It is the year 2000, and it goes 00. And can you imagine like America working, like American banking system and many more areas which had some computers processing and operating, and what would have happened had they not fixed this bug? Probably it would be a disaster. And I guess we can also see it from this historical perspective, and learn some lessons even from this remote event. Because as I said, yeah, Kinga is looking skeptical at me.
The lesson would be to put more memory into the computers, or what? Because
perhaps, yeah. No, actually.
Great lesson, to be honest.
No. Actually, how they dealt with this problem, it is quite interesting, because the first person who mentioned that, I believe it was somewhere in 1980s or around that time. So he said something like, okay, hey, probably we should pay attention to that problem, because you see it is coming. We still have 20 years. And that reminds me of my preparation for basically every test. When you have a week before your test, and you sort of have time and you can prepare, but you don't. You're just waiting till the last moment. But yeah, some parts of the country took his advice seriously, and especially banking system invested some money in that, because again, the banking system was run on the computers, so they had to do something about that. Of course. and they started to invest money in that. They changed their banking system, but also some businesses did that. Later, more and more people started to do that, and it was mostly because the government ordered them to do that. They said like, hey, do that because like we don't know what is going to happen if you don't, so just do it. And probably we should also mention that it was mostly the problem for America, because some other countries didn't rely that heavily on computers. Yeah, but still, there were some concerns about some missiles, like nuclear missiles, launching accidentally. So America also agreed with Russia that they would send some supervisors to Russia, to America, to just control the systems, to see that, no, we're not going to nuke you, so yeah, just don't worry. And that's what they did. And overall, it is estimated that America spent more than $100 billion to fix that bug. What happened next was probably the most funny part, that actually when nothing happened, some people were upset about it, and they said like, well, you told us that the world is going to end, so I mean, but nothing happened, so probably they just tried to fool us. Something like that. Of course, I'm not saying that there was no instances of like sort of fooling people and just getting their money, because some of the companies started to print some badges and some stickers which they would put on their products, and it read something like Y2K compliant or something like that. Probably you can imagine that there is some piece of electronics which doesn't have data at all, but they would still put this sticker there just for people to buy it, because again, it's compliant, Y2K compliant,
and
right?
And people actually fooled for that.
Yeah, some people did. But I mean, it was, again, the year 2000, and some people actually believe that the world is going to end. So some people prepared for that, bought some canned food. It is crazy, especially considering that some people started to buy some weapons, and the most popular one was, can you guess what?
I don't think I can.
Okay, probably if I'm not mistaken, it was this weapon which just shoots fire. Crazy, right? I mean, that's just hard to imagine that they were like, okay, so the world is going to end. I don't like my neighbor, so probably I should prepare if he or she tries to attack me. You were just silent. I mean, you're not saying anything.
What am I going to reply to that? I'm like
I understand.
shocked.
Yeah, but I mean, that's difficult to
Yeah, I know. To connect the voice expressions to the podcast.
Yeah, because I see you, but the listeners don't see you, so how am I going to explain that? Well, Kinga is shocked or something like that.
Well, you could do that. This would be helpful.
Yeah, maybe sometimes. Anyway, yeah, so that's the story. Do you have anything to add to this sort of Christmas / New Year episode?
Well, I just wanted to say that I hope you all who will listen to this would have a great, warm, and happy Christmas, and that everything would be great for you.
Yeah, and I agree, and I also want to wish you a Merry Christmas and of course Happy New Year. And yeah, just in case you're listening after Christmas or New Year, that's not a problem. Just there is half a winter ahead of you, so don't worry. Thanks for listening. I'm really happy I had you on the podcast today. So yeah, thanks for coming.
Well, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And goodbye, everyone.
Bye.